When we have love, we do not need much food or sleep, what to speak of other things to satisfy our lust. Thus, Vairagya appear in a natural way, and we do not need anything else because our needs are satisfied. Raghunath Das Goswami would drink a glass of buttermilk every other day and was in a perfect health because he was getting energy from another source, from love. Therefore, when we artificially try to protect ourselves from the sense object, from the stimuli, then Krishna says, Kamendriyani Shamihayamya ye asate manasa smara indriya arthan vimudatma mithyacharaha sayuchyate. If we are restraining our senses, but all the while thinking about sense object, we are a hopeless fool because we are cheating themselves. Bhagavad Gita explained nicely. 3.6. In his purport to verse 5 of the Manahasiksha, Bhaktivinoda Thakur referred to a series of verses from chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 60 to 63. They describe how degradation takes place in 8 steps. There is an 8-step yoga that has 8 ascending steps, and there are also 8 descending steps. Everything is symmetrical, each step up and each step down. Dhayato Visaya Pungsha Sangaste Supajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodha Abhijayate. Krodhat Bhavati Samoha Samohat Smuta Vibrumaha Smruti Bhramsad Buddhi Nasho Buddhi Nasat Pranasyati. These 8 steps leading down start when we begin to meditate on something material. By nature, we are meditators. And if someone doubt it, pay attention to what we do. We contemplate, we reflect, we begin to look. We are painfully trying to find an object that will make us happy as we scan the world. This is something only a human being is capable of. This is because other entities do not have a choice. All other species see only what they need to see, protected by Krishna. For example, a frog's vision is created in such a way that it does not see slow-moving objects, but only fast-moving objects like flies. If you slowly touch a frog, it will not see you. The mosquito perceives only warm objects emitting carbon dioxide. Everyone has their own vision, and each species sees only what it needs. But mankind sees everything. Therefore, a person can develop any desires. A person sees something, start meditating on it, that object, and thinks, maybe that is what I have been missing. A person focuses on something and gain more and more confidence that yes, that is what I need. So this is wonderful instructions. If we remember Radha and Krishna, then the mind will not bother that much. So we have to learn how to engage our mind constantly, thinking about the divine couple. So now we will read from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. I'll read for one paragraph because we read on Friday, so it's a couple of days ago. For example, if he were going to distribute free food to the public, it could not be ordinary food, but must be prasadam, food offered to Krishna. Feeding hungry people was futile unless they were given prasadam and the chances of liberation from birth and death. And although in the kirtan he allowed openness and free expression and welcomed the wildest participation, the transcendental sound of the holy name had to dominate. He never allowed the kirtan to degenerate into mere beating on drums or chanting of any old words. Nor could anyone in the group become so crazy that others wouldn't be able to hear or take part in the congregation chanting. So this is the principle for the kirtan. In his attempts, now we continue, somehow or other get these young people chanting Hare Krishna. Prabhupada instinctively knew what to allow and what not to allow. He was the master, and his new disciple followed him when he permitted an egoistic, sensual dancer to jump around the temple or a drug madman to argue with him in a question and answer period. When a person was too disruptive, Prabhupada was not afraid to stop him. But stopping was rare. The main thing was giving. The kirtan lasted more than an hour as the chanters joined hands and danced around the room and incense poured out the front door. The morning and evening kirtan had already made Radha Krishna temple popular in Heights, Asbury. But when the devotees began serving a daily free lunch, the temple became an integral part of the community. Prabhupada told his disciple simply to cook and distribute prasadam. That would be their only activity during the day. In the morning, they would cook, and at noon, they would feed everyone who came. Sometimes 150 to 200 hippies from the street of Heights, Asbury. Before the morning, and the girls would put oatmeal on the stove, and by breakfast, there would be a room full of hippies. Most of them had been up all night. The cereal and fruit was for some the first solid food in days. But the main program was the lunch. Malti would go out and shop, getting donation whenever possible for whole wheat flour, garbanzo flour, split peas, rice, and whatever vegetables were cheap or free: potatoes, carrots, turnips, rutabagas, beets. Then every day the cooks would prepare spice mashed potatoes, buttered chapatis, split pea dal, and vegetable dish for 200 people. The lunch program was possible because many merchants were willing to donate to the recognized cause of feeding hippies. Harsarani. The lunch program attracted a lot of the hippies, hill crowd, who obviously wanted food. They were really hungry, and there were other people who would come also. People who were working with the temple but weren't initiated. The record player would be playing the Swamiji's record. It was a nice family atmosphere. Haridas spoke in his own word as follows. It was taken outside too, outside the front, but the main food was served inside. It was amazing. The people would put all huddled together and we would really line them wall to wall. A lot of them would simply eat and leave. Other stores along Haight Ashbury were selling everything from beats to rock records. Haight Ashbury were selling everything, yeah, but our store was different because we weren't selling anything, we were giving it away. And we were welcoming everybody. We were providing a kind of refuge from the tumult and madness of the scene. So it was in that sense a hospital. And I think a lot of people were helped and maybe even saved. I don't mean only their souls, I mean their minds and bodies were saved because of what was going on in the street that they just simply couldn't handle. I'm talking about overdoses of drugs. People who were plain lost and needed comforting and who sort of wandered or staggered into the temple. Some of them stayed and became devotees and some just took prasadam and left. Daily we had unusual incidents and Swamiji witnessed it and took part in it. The lunch program was his idea. Mukunda. The Salvation Army came in one day for lunch. They just unloaded a whole truckload of people on us, about 30 or 40. Larry Sipan, some of the community of loose people cynically took advantage of the free food. They didn't appreciate the Swami because they said he was, in his own way, an orthodox minister, and they were much more interested in being unorthodox. It was fairly a cynical thing. Those who were more interested and had questions, the spiritual seekers, would visit Swamiji in his room. Many of them would come in complete anxiety over the war in Vietnam or whatever was going on. Trouble with the law, bad experience on drugs, a falling out with school or a family. There was much public concern about the huge influx of youth into San Francisco, a situation that was creating an almost uncontrollable social problem. Police and social welfare workers were worried about health problems and poor living conditions, especially in Haight Ashbury. Some middle-class people feared a complete hippie takeover. The local authorities welcomed the service offered by Swami Bhaktivedant's temple. And when civic leader in Haight Ashbury talked of forming a council to deal with the crisis, they requested Swami Bhaktivedanta to take part. And he agreed, but lost interest after the first meeting. No one seemed seriously interested in hearing his solution. Master Subramanya, A lot of responsible citizens in San Francisco were very happy that Swami Bhaktivedanta was working amongst the young people. The young people at that time were searching and needed somebody of a very high caliber who would take an interest in them and who would say, quote, you should do this and you should not do that, unquote. The census was that no one could tell the young people what to do because they were completely out of hand with drugs and so forth. But Swamiji told them what to do, and they did it. And everyone was appreciative, especially the young people. Harsharani, just from a medical standpoint, doctors didn't know what to do with people on LSD. The police and the free clinics in the area couldn't handle the overload of the people taking LSD. The police saw Swamiji as a certain refugee. Michael Bowman. Bhaktivedanta had an amazing ability through devotion to get people off the drug, especially speed, heroin, burnt out LSD cases, all of them. Haridas is explaining in his word as follows. The police used to come with their paddy wagon through the park in the early hours of the morning and pick up runaway teenagers sleeping in the park. The police would round them up and try to send them back home. The hippies needed all the help they could get, and they knew it. And the Radha Krishna temple was certainly a kind of spiritual heaven. Kids sensed it. They were running, living on the street, no place where they could go, where they could rest, where people weren't going to hurt them. A lot of kids would literally fall into the temple. I think it saved a lot of lives. There might have been a lot more casualties of it if it hadn't been for Hare Krishna. It was like opening a temple in a battlefield. It was the hardest place to do it, but it was the place where it was most needed. Although the Swami had no precedence for dealing with any of this, he applied the chanting with miraculous result. The chanting was wonderful and it worked. Srila Prabhupada knew that only Krishna consciousness could help. Others had their remedies, but Prabhupada considered them mere patchwork. He knew that ignorantly identified the soul with the body was the real cause of suffering. How could someone help himself, what to speak of others, if he didn't know who he was? If he didn't know that the body was only a covering of the real self, the spirit soul, which could be happy only in his original nature as an eternal servant of Krishna. Understanding that Lord Krishna considered anyone who approached him a virtuous person, and that even a little devotional service would never be lost and could save a person at the time of death. Srila Prabhupada had opened his door to everyone, even the most abject runaway. But for a lost soul to fully receive the balm of Krishna consciousness, he would first have to stay a while and chant, inquire, listen, and follow. As Allen Ginsberg had advised 5,000 hippies at the Avalon, The early morning kirtan at the temple provided a vital community service for those who were coming down from LSD and wanted, quote, to stabilize their consciousness on re-entry, unquote. Alan himself sometimes dropped by in the morning with acquaintances with whom he had stayed up all night. So Alan is explaining in his own word. At 6:30 in the morning, we went over to Swami Prabhupada's space station for some chanting and a little Krishna consciousness. There were about 30 or 40 people there, all chanting Hare Krishna to this new tune they have made up just for the morning. One kid got a little freaked out by this scene at first, but then he relaxed and afterwards he told me, quote, at first I thought, what is this? But then suddenly I realized I was just not grooving with where I was. I wasn't being where I was, unquote. On occasion, the re-entries would come flying in out of control for crash landing in the middle of the night. One morning at 2 a.m., the boys sleeping in the storefront were awakened by a pounding at the door, screaming, and police lights. When they opened the door, a young hippie with wild red hair and beard plunged in crying, "Oh Krishna, Krishna, oh help me, oh don't let them get me, oh for God's sake, help," unquote. A policeman stuck his head in the door and smiled. Quote, "We decided to bring him by here," unquote, he said. Quote, "because we thought maybe you guys could help him," unquote. Policeman realized, quote, "I'm not comfortable in this body," unquote, the boy screamed as the policeman shut the door. The boy began chanting furiously and turned white, sweating profusely in terror. Swamiji's boys spent the rest of the early morning consoling him and chanting with him until the Swami came down for kirtan and class. The devotees often sent distressed young people to Swamiji with their problems, and that allowed almost anyone to see Swamiji and take up his valuable time. While walking around San Francisco, Ravindra Swarup once met a man who claimed to have seen people from Mars in his tent when he had been stationed in Vietnam. The man, who had just been discharged from an army hospital, said that the Martians had talked to him. Ravindra Swarup told him about Swamiji's book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, which verified the idea of life on other planets. And he suggested that the Swami could probably tell him more about the people from Mars. So the man visited Swami up in his apartment. Quote, "Yes," unquote, Swamiji answered, "there are Martians." Gradually, Prabhupada's followers became more considerate of their spiritual master and began protecting him from persons they thought might be undesirable. One such undesirable was Rabbit, perhaps the dirtiest hippie in Hyde Asbury. Rabbit's hair was always disheveled, dirty, and even filled with lice. His clothes were ragged and filthy, and his dirt-caked body stank. He wanted to meet Prabhupada, but the devotee refused, not wanting to defile Prabhupada's room with Rabbit's nasty, stinking presence. One night after the lecture, however, Rabbit waited outside the temple door. As Prabhupada approached, Rabbit asked, quote, "May I come up and see you?" And Prabhupada agreed. As for challengers, almost every night someone would come to argue with Prabhupada. One man came regularly with prepared arguments from a philosophy book, from which he would read aloud. Prabhupada would defeat him, and the man would go home, prepare another argument, and come back again with his book. One night, after the man had presented his challenge, Prabhupada simply looked at him without bothering to reply. Prabhupada's neglect was another defeat for the man who got up and left. Israel, like Rabbit, was another well-known Hyde Asbury character. He had a long ponytail and often played the trumpet during kirtan. After one of Prabhupada's evening lectures, Israel challenged, quote, "This chanting may be nice, but what will it do for the world? What will it do for humanity?" Unquote. Prabhupada replied, quote, "Are you not in the world? If you like it, why will others not like it? So you chant loudly." Unquote. A mustached man standing at the back of the room asked, quote, "Are you Allen Ginsberg Guru?" Unquote. Many of the devotees knew that the question was loaded and that to answer either yes or no would be difficult. So Srila Prabhupada replied, quote, "I am nobody's guru. I am everybody's servant." To the devotees, the whole exchange became transcendental due to Swamiji's reply. Swamiji had not simply given a clever response. He had answered out of a deep, natural humility. So one morning, a couple attended a lecture. A woman carrying a child and a man wearing a black backpack. During the question and answer period, the man asked, quote, "What about my mind?" Unquote. Prabhupada gave him philosophical replies, but the man kept repeating, "What about my mind? What about my mind?" With a pleading, compassionate look, Prabhupada said, quote, "I have no other medicine. Please chant this Hare Krishna. I have no other explanation. I have no other answer." Unquote. But the man kept talking about his mind. Finally, one of the woman devotees interrupted and said, quote, "Just do what he says. Just try it." Unquote. And Prabhupada picked up his kartal and began kirtan. So one evening, a boy burst into a lecture exclaiming that the riot was gathering on Hyde Street. The Swami should come immediately, address the crowd, and calm everyone down. Mukunda explained that it wasn't necessary for Swamiji to go. Others could help. The boy just started at Prabhupada as if giving an ultimatum. Unless Swamiji come immediately, there would be a riot, and Swamiji would be to blame. Prabhupada spoke as if preparing to do what the boy wanted. Quote, yes, I'm prepared, unquote. But nobody went, and there was no right. We have only 1 minute left, and the paragraph is long, so we won't be able to finish it. So we did stop here. We should be punctual. If anybody has any question, comment, correction, chastisement, before the devotee leaves, I would like to offer my humble obeisances at the dusk of their feet. Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhu bhaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in the early morning time and chanting Hare Krishna.